Thursday, December 1st. Full speed ahead into the holidays. And next week, full speed ahead into the winter meetings. And the big names are still on the board and rumors with trades and all that. So we thought we'd check in a weekend before with our good friend Buster Olney as he joins us now. Buster, it's Michael, Don, and Peter. How you doing?
What's going on?
You tell me. So who do you think is the name most likely to come off the board first?
Well, I think that Soto will be the first big name to be traded, and I think Ohtani's going to make his decision sometime in the next 96 hours. And I do think, as I told you guys, a few weeks ago, Soto is going to get traded, and I think the Yankees are in a great position to get him because of the salary, because there's so few teams who are going to be willing to take on a player making $33 million and give up prospects and watch that player walk away as a free agent as a client of Scott Boras. A few years ago when the Red Sox traded Mookie Betts, there was a lot of criticism. They didn't get a great package. The reality of that situation, Mookie was a year from free agency, and the fact is the Red Sox didn't have a lot of choices. There weren't a lot of teams involved in that bidding. And the Padres are in the exact same situation right now with Juan Soto. There's not going to be a wide range of teams out there saying, yeah, we're willing to give up a bunch of players and pay that kind of salary. So I do think the Yankees, in the end, are in a good position. We'll see if another team jumps in. And Ohtani, look, folks who know him really believe that he's known for a long time where he wants to go. But, his agent, Nez Valelo, has to do the dog and pony show to try to goose the bidding. We'll see where he winds up. I've thought all along that the Dodgers were the favorite, and, we'll see. Is the specter of him signing with the Toronto Blue Jays real? I don't know for sure. But, I think he, in the end, winds up going with a team in a warm market.
Just going back to Soto for a second, Buster. So the only positive for the Red Sox that they got out of the Betts deal was they piggybacked David Price's salary. Could the Yankees do that with Stanton and maybe eat some of Stanton's salary? Because I know that the reason they're trading Soto is because they have to shed money. Is there any way the Yankees could piggyback a salary if they give them a top-flight prospect?
Well, I think it'd be really hard because, of course, Stanton has a full no-trade clause, and he would control that process. I wondered about that too. Like, would they be able to? Is there some sort of salary that they could take on to even it out? And maybe they would work something else out. The one thing that another thing that bodes well, I think, for the Yankees is that the Padres, from what everyone says, they're looking for cheap major leaguers. Their general manager, A.J. Preller, has been there a long time, and his patron saint was Peter Seidler, who just passed away recently. And the perception in the industry is that A.J. essentially has 1 year to prove it to the new stewards of the Padres, and so he needs to have a good year. He can't trade Soto for a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds. He's going to be looking for guys who are in the cusp of the big leagues or already big leaguers, and the Yankees actually have a decent array of those type of guys.
This just doesn't feel like a Brian Cashman move to me, though. So would it be coming from Hal, or was Brian thinking differently?
No, I would agree with you, except I think that they're just under a special kind of pressure right now. And Soto, let's face it, would absolutely check every single box. Left-handed hitter, patience, track record, all of that. And as I mentioned, I think that the price tag, as we saw with the Dodgers in the Betts situation, didn't turn out to be that high. I think it's going to be a similar situation here where folks are going to, remember what the Padres gave up to get Soto, and they're going to look at the package the Padres get back, whatever that turns out to be, and go, really? That's all it took? Because it's just not going to be a big appetite. The one thing I'd say, and I hear this from evaluators all the time about Soto and the question of how he would do in New York, if you guys remember when he went to the Padres, he wasn't very good for a couple of months. There was a perception that there was an adjustment period, that he felt the pressure of being that guy, going to a new market, proving himself to new teammates, and maybe he's learned from that experience. But I think that if, in fact, he wants to be traded to the Yankees, everyone's going to wonder how will he adapt in the first month that he would be in New York.
I have also heard, Buster, I don't know if you've heard this, that he was not best of friends with Machado and Tatis. It was not a happy triumvirate. Could that have played into the role that he didn't play that well at the beginning?
You know, I think that's it's a little. I think it's a little overstated. You know, because I've seen that out there that he's not a good team. I don't agree with that. I mean, based on everything I've heard, people I've talked to, I think he's a good team. I think that there was this absolute, you know, behind the scenes battle going on with his representation with Scott, with the Padres about where he would hit the lineup. When I talked to Soto early in the year, he made it clear he was more comfortable hitting third. The Padres' preference early on was that he bat second, where you'd have Tatis and then Soto, and I think that rubbed some of the others who were involved the wrong way. But I don't think that was a case where, you know, Soto's walking in every day and being a clubhouse lawyer. I just think there was some disagreement about how that particular situation was handled.
Well, I had never heard that he was a bad teammate. I had just heard that he didn't get along with Tatis and didn't get along with Machado. So I don't know. I mean, that was when the Padres were in town. I was hearing whispers from people that, you know, that Melvin didn't even get along with them either. And now Melvin's in San Francisco. There had to be something to that.
Well, and as I say, I think that there was, I know that there was a behind-the-scenes, you know, where Scott, representing his client, made very clear to the Padres, look, he's comfortable as a number 3 hitter, and that did rub some of his teammates the wrong way, where they felt like, hey, what difference does it make when you're talking about Xander Bogaerts and, you know, Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado? Let's just line up the way Bob feels that we should, as opposed to, you know, Soto behind the scenes having Scott reach out to the Padres and try to, you know, adjust that. I really do think that wouldn't be a factor with the Yankees because Judge, you know, is a natural leader, and I think he and Soto would work out whatever issues that maybe he may have had in San Diego.
All right, let's talk about Yamamoto. You know, it looks like the Yankees are the only team, or one of the few teams that can take on Soto, but everybody seems like they want Yamamoto. So when does that get resolved, and who's he going to?
So it's definitely not going to be resolved in Nashville. He's going to be meeting with teams after the winter meetings. Executives I talked to with all the teams that are involved all think it's going to be a while for that process to play out. And this is going to be utterly fascinating because he has every big market team involved. The Dodgers, you know, having lost so much starting pitching, with the uncertainty about whether or not Clayton Kershaw is going to pitch for them again, they desperately need a starting pitcher. You know, the Mets, that's clearly their focus this winter. And Yamamoto is a 25-year-old who would be perfect as they build forward. And then the Yankees, you know, every time Brian Cashman's been backed into a corner, he's natural reflexes to pull a lever for pitching. He did it with CC Sabathia after 2008, did it with Garrett Cole, et cetera, et cetera. So I think they're all in. And I know in some corners of the Yankees organization, they feel like they have a real shot. I will tell you that team executives, agents, rival agents who are not involved in this, they all believe that it's going to come down to who puts out the biggest offer. And in our lifetime, I find this to be totally fascinating. We have never seen a situation between the Yankees and the Mets where two teams, both teams are going hard after the same guy. There have been times when the Yankees are up. There have been times when the Mets are up, when, you know, one team goes after, you know, one big free agent. But we've never seen the two teams absolutely go all out to get the same guy, which is why I think in the end, whatever the number is, it's going to be the second biggest number in free agent history, with Garrett Cole, of course, being number one at 324. I think Yamamoto, having all these big market teams involved, means the price is going to just go way beyond where anyone expected.
So what's Cohen's thinking? Is it apprehensive to spend money after what happened last year with Verlander and Scherzer, or does he double down financially because of it?
Yeah, I think that he's going to listen to David Stearns. And here's my big question about this. You know, Chaim Bloom went to take over the Red Sox, coming from the Tampa Bay Rays. And when you talk with folks there, you know, especially with the benefit of 20/20 hindsight, the feeling was that he was never comfortable being someone who was out there spending huge dollars. That he didn't have the sense for the jugular to say, okay, I am going to go all out and I'm going to dole out the biggest contract. I think that's the big question about David Stearns as we move forward. He hasn't been in a position where he's been able to say, give out a contract for $275 million for a starting pitcher. Will he start to fill the thin air, getting up at a number that high, or will he be aggressive? I don't know the answer to that, but to me, it's one of the big X factors in the whole negotiation with Yamamoto, because he is perfect for every team. You just don't see free agent pitchers at 25 with that kind of talent available. So it's an early test for David Stearns, maybe an early indication of exactly where he wants to go with his payroll.
Maybe the Mets. I'm sorry, Peter. Please go ahead.
No, but Buster, I was going to say, back to the Yankees for a second. Is there a version of this offseason that doesn't involve Soto, Yamamoto, a huge name, that you think could still be impactful / satisfy this fan base? Or does it have to be a major splash? That's the only path here.
Well, Peter, I think you know better than I do, because you're talking with fans every day. My perception is that they're under a lot of pressure, and they're answering to a lot of angry fans. I think that probably was a lot of what was behind Brian Cashman at the GM meetings a few weeks ago. I do think there's a lot on their shoulders, and I think that it's going to drive some of the decisions they make going this winter. They could go out and I'm just pulling names out. Let's say Lucas Giolito. He's available to sign. You could go out and maybe sign Kevin Kiermaier, somebody like that. That's not going to satisfy this fan base right now. They want to see the Yankees go out and make big moves, and they're at least in a position right now where it looks like they're going to have opportunities to do that.
Why are the Mets in on Soto? Maybe they're not a match because they don't have young pitching that major league ready. But I've heard things are not in because they're not ready to win. It doesn't make sense. I mean, this should be a thing where Steve Cohen can open the wallet and actually sign him. Well, why wouldn't the Mets be in on Soto?
Yeah, and I think it's a fair question. I think you had the right answer. They're not a great match for the Padres in terms of what San Diego's looking for. San Diego right now has only 2 veteran starters. They got to fill 3 spots on the cheap. And so the Yankees actually, with some of the guys they have, there's an opportunity there. The Mets, on the other hand, don't have that kind of pitching. I agree with you. Like, the idea that the Mets are going to go into this full-on rebuild, when you're talking about Pete Alonso in his walk year and Francisco Lindor and some of the other veterans they have on this team, Senga, who, there's a perception that he's, potentially a candidate as time goes on to have some arm trouble. That scared some teams away before he signed as a free agent last year. They're 2 seasons removed from winning 101 games. You could easily see the Mets rebounding with the right moves. I just don't think they're necessarily, they're well suited unless they got a third team involved to make a trade with San Diego.
Where do we stand with Alonso on a contract?
I think they are a million miles apart. I know, the question is, will Steve Cohen, will the Mets match Pete's, Scott Boras' vision of what Pete should be paid? Because very different than what recent industry standards are. The shortstops, the center fielders get paid. Starting pitchers get paid. Historically, first basemen haven't gotten paid as much. I mean, look at Freddie Freeman. The guys every year hit 320, and he became a free agent, and the Atlanta Braves offered him, I think, $135 or $140 million was their last offer. And when you factor in deferred money and state tax, he got less money to sign with the Dodgers. That's the same range that Paul Goldschmidt got. It certainly seems like Scott wants more, in the $200 million range. That seems to be the signals that are being sent out. And I do wonder, does David Stearns, who I think has been so successful in his career following the numbers, following the markets, does he go out and step out for a really popular homegrown player like Pete?
Buster Olney is our guest. Before we let you go, Buster, if the Yankees don't do the Soto deal, if something goes wrong, do they go after Bellinger? Is that their next step? Or could they go after Bellinger and Soto?
I can't imagine them doing both just because of the limits of the payroll with Stanton, with Judge, with Garrett Cole, maybe with Yamamoto as well. I am going to be curious to see if they're going to be willing to pivot to spend on Cody in the way that he's earned. I can't tell you for sure that they wouldn't do both. My guess is they would, just because they have so many other stresses within their payroll.
Good stuff, Buster. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the winter meetings.
All right, guys.
All right,
take care.
That's Buster Olney. Good stuff on the winter meetings coming up Monday in Nashville. We'll be all over that as well. Empire Outlets on Staten Island.